Who's opening?
Anybody want to be ambitious in the future and write a book? All of you? My goodness, I don't know how to answer all of you.
Hi.
Anyway, my friend Banagavluk is my sidekick. She's here to give me a hug and get comfortable. You want to say hello to all the friends?
Hello, everybody. Ariga. Good to see you all. I'm just excited today for my Agnes Rosie. Rose Kangataima, we worked together forever. Way back, we started working together. And it was so nice to be working with her because we're just like sisters. We're sisters and we work together and nothing ever stopped us from doing anything. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lillian. Her and I go back a long ways when we occupied the old rehab center across from the from the government offices.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
By 12.
Yeah, that was really ancient.
Yeah.
We didn't have a white hair in our head.
We didn't have a smart board.
But we did wonderful things. We
Yes.
did things that, if I told a story in my dialect, Lillian developed one in her own dialect. So we had the same book going out the same time for the students in the school. I don't know what other things, other than I'd like to talk about my storybook, if you allow me to. If you have any questions, how long it took me and what hurdles I went through or how smooth it was, you could ask me any question and Lillian will answer. Okay.
That's what I'm planning to do too, so I'm going to listen to what you did. First of all, I'd just like to say a prayer in my language. Because if I try to say it in English, it's going to be all broken and it wouldn't mean a thing to me. But when I say it in my language, it means so much. It's like that with Rose and I. It means more. The words are meaningful to me. At ane kanyakti lang nilichung oblupak. Ilibit ka manaktuatin, nalungitsuatin. Iwanak pat nalungin yakap ko, iling ng kanyak tong ataramik. Ublupakahin. Iluilyo kalawakapta. Isumalop kalawakapta, ilibit muna kanya kaptiwid. Kaya yak paralytic penyublupak wane nachirak o na anyaraka Rose Kirby. Kaya gablu mga kailalichunga, ilibit ki nalot kong ilutin inyong nun. Ikayulan na yun, libritin iwanga kuleak to kakipin inyong nun, ikayutaw peakan ikabit. At aramik kayok to ako nakaptiwit, ubluto ako, at anek ublo pakahin. Kuya hunmik, humihutay chamik, kuya nakto akong ublit kalit sumayptiwit. Jesus at kaun, apayipin. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Kiyula siyatin, that's right. I said, God will answer her.
Yeah.
There, she's very lucky. Anyway,
everybody.
Would like to introduce Jason, who's the right-hand person for my writing my book. He took my book and anything that was out of place and sound not correct, he would ask me, what does it mean? So I have to think my poor brain out, and I said, how about this way? It took a long time. It took us a year.
2 years. Yeah.
2 years, 3 years to write my book. It doesn't take, you have some good ideas, try it. Try it anywhere. If you have stories that are your grandchildren, try it. My book is called Gunuk Sayuka. My mother used to tell us stories when I was a little girl about Gunuk Sayuka. Gunuk Sayuka was the stories about the wind maker. And every time, you know, when this big storm comes, you can't see outside. Mom say, Gunuk Sayuka must be busy out there. He uses balloon, and he takes the snow and he makes it blow through out in the wind, and it was, oh, there's my balloon. Who did found this?
I found it here.
This was the shovel made by Gunuk Sayuka. But it was much bigger, of course, because he would dig in the snow. He would dig in the snow and throw his snow up against the wind and laugh about wind blowing around those people who lived over there. There was no wind on this side. You'd have such a big storm, you'd be stuck in a house maybe 2-3 days. And in those days, if you were caught in the snow 2-3 days, guess where you spent your time? In your frozen tent, cold, and you're running out of food. And Mom would say, that Gunuk Sayuka is so busy enjoying making wind and storm. Ali! I better quit using this.
Very interactive. We love
bothering you.
No, that's Gunuk Sayuka right there.
Well, you could see the character. That's really busy. That man was really busy making storms for the people, against the people. And guess what the young men, their responsibility was when there was a big storm? Did he go out dancing? Was it a jig he'd had to do? No. No, he had to open his shirt and face the wind and show his chest to the wind in hopes that he will bring about a nice weather. And many times the weather would not change, so somebody else would try. shake bare his chest to the wind. And if it doesn't change, I had asked Mom one day, how about this woman, this girl, could I go out and bare my chest? She said, no, only men have to bare their chest. You girls don't have to bare your chest. So that was a big thank you. Yeah. And so we just had to bear the weather, and every day when it's windy outside, my dad would come in and say, it's still blowing really hard. You can't see the bend of the river where they go fishing. They have to stay in the house. But us kids would go play out. It's really close to the tent. And we'd be far enough that we won't get lost for sure. But it was cold. When you go back and your feet are just hurting because they're so sore from being cold. Oh, hi.
Hi.
Yeah. So the story goes so much about Gunuk. At night time, my mother would say, I'm going to sleep now. They were sleeping in a tent, igloo tent, on this side, and we were sleeping on this side. And she'd always tell us the stories. And the next night, you would work really quickly and do our job, just like Bunny Governor probably. Mm-hmm. She'd probably do her job quickly, so I didn't complain about getting water. That is because after we finished, we'd get a chance to sit and listen to my mother, tell stories about Gunuk Sayuka. Most of the time she's busy sewing, doing other things that had to be done. But the story goes on and on. I don't know, I think
you don't have to tell it all out.
At this stage you just ask anyone who wants to find out about writing a story.
Well, I think, speaking of Kunuksuyuka, I think this is a great time to uncover your book cover. So, Samara and I are going to release the clips, and then...
Oh.
Are you close enough that you can...
Oh, don't move me.
No, don't move you?
I'm on. I could turn my head.
Okay. We'll drop it?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? 1, 2...
Hey.
So, how do you feel seeing that?
I feel like it's a long title.
It was a really long, it was a tricky book cover to make because it was a really long title, and we had to fit it. We tried putting it vertically, but it didn't work. So anyway, you can find me after. I can tell you all about the nerdy design stuff. But this worked out. And the story behind the cover is actually, I don't know if Mary Okina is here from Ulu, but this is her art. This is her original print that we commissioned Mary Okina to make, and we put it on the cover. So we actually have the original print here. Do you want to show it? Lillian is holding it. That is the original print that she made for this cover. Her rendition of...
This way?
Yeah.
Which one? Oh, that.
Yeah, that's Kaniksuyuka. And on the back cover, which we don't have a big banner for, unfortunately, is another image that she made based on another story that's in the book. I have that print here as well. So This is the other original print. After this, we'll put it up on this white wall and just leave it here for the rest of the festival so you can look at it. But this image is going to be on the back cover. And yeah, this is it.
I think.
Oh, thank you.
I think. I'm not going to talk about Gunuk Sayuka now. That is Gunuk Sayuka. This winter, when it starts to blow, I'm going to hear someone say, "Look at Gunuk Sayuka, it's really busy." And he will be. Part of Gunuk Sayuka is during the time where I was young. In our short life, Gunuk Sayuka existed. And as we moved into public housing, into housing, there was hardly no Gunuk Sayuka. It had disappeared with the times and with our times of growing up. Gunuk Sayuka disappeared. But then we had other things. We had regular life too, that we had to grow up and consider, and we're starting to live in a white man's world of living. We had lost one of our good friends that kept us together in a tent throughout the whole bad weather. That's how we lived. But there's certain things that went down through life, right here, please. Yes. Part of the stories in my book is the years that we went through life with different ways. Some years it was dog team, or some years was a four-wheeler and a do line. It was all different. It wasn't all one way that we lived anymore. One of the things that occurred during the early years is called Dad's Scare at Paulituck at Lady Harbor. Gunuk Sayuka was really busy for a long time, and then it got really nice out. My dad went out hunting seals with Uncle Uncle Haliganemna.
Sam?
No.
My dad went out hunting polar bear with Sam Green.
Oh.
I'm trying to read it off silent. They went out hunting polar seals with dog team, and it was quite a ways from Paulituck. It was out at Lady Harbor. It was about 60 miles away by dog team. And they hunted. My dad was a greenhorn. He didn't really know very much about hunting. My mother knew more about hunting animals than my mom did. My dad, he spent 8 years, he called useless years in school. Spent 8 years in school. It didn't teach him how to hunt. didn't teach him how to make harnesses or how to. He came from a place that has lots of wood, the Delta, and then he went to Palatine. And the safest place he went was the river. The river had lots of willows. People can live with the willows. Anyway, to make that story short, he went hunting at Leather Harbor, and they had to share the monarch, they call it a seal hook. When they get sealed, they threw their monarch to catch the seal. That's that was our fuel to give us fire, and that was our meat, our food. And Sam Green got his seal, and he went quite a ways. He thought my dad went back home, and so he went back home, and we were all sitting around in a little one-piece house they built for us. And someone came running in and said, "There's one dog team coming in winter time. It's just like having a lamp out there, so you don't need a light." But they did see one dog team coming in, and Sam Green came in. My granddad went out to see him. "I'm giving you all my secrets." My granddad went out to see what happened to my dad. He said, "Boy, didn't he come home?" Sam Green said. And my granddad said, "No, your dad didn't come home. What happened to him?" He said he borrowed my monarch and he went further on the ice floe, and he went to get a seal for himself. Well, my dad didn't come home. And in the winter time, it's so bright out with the snow. It's just like having a lamp. You could see if someone was coming. So we're waiting in the house, wondering what happened to my dad. And several hours later, those young men kept going out to check to see if there's a dog team. And so as the dog team appeared, several hours later, someone ran and said, "There's a dog team coming, maybe it's Joe Thrasher, but there's nobody on a sled." The only way that he could come home is standing up, so they waited till the dog team came in, and there was just a blanket, and there was a dog team. And they opened the blanket. There was my dad sleeping in a sled. He never woke up for a day. He kept really. He had like a funny dream, but he finally woke up about a day or so away from that first day he went out. And first thing he asked for, a cup of coffee. And my daughter got some where's my paper?
Right here.
I depend on that on the last page.
Last page?
My daughter
The
asked
next
him
page.
what he did, what was, what kept him so long.
Last one.
And he said, I really want coffee first, and I'll tell you what happened to me. After he had his coffee, he had something to eat, and it was some time before my dad said he could talk about it. We often wondered what happened. Dad did not talk of it often. Understood now why he'd give more to his leader. Very understood. My dad always gave more to his leader, more food, more everything. Dada spoke to Dad, giving him good and necessary advice. Do not ever stay alone at Little Harbor. Someone must always be with you, always. He said that to everybody. What Dada said, well, I had to listen and follow his directions. My dad said he stopped. He stopped and took his leader into the porch, into the building with him, and pitched up a one-man tent, and he had a one-man's primer stove to make coffee. He was pumping it to start it, and all of a sudden he looked at his leader. He brought only one leader in with him. It was his leader. His other dogs stayed out, and while they were there, that leader, you could see. He said, you could see how his face changed, like he saw something, and he was growling towards the corner where my dad was, and he said he slowly shut off the little gas lamp, and he said he didn't remember a thing, and that's how his leader got him home. He must have had time to hook his leader up and put himself in a blanket.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs brought him home. That was the incident of my dad at Little Harbor. The day was so scary because we didn't know what was wrong. Many things like that happened many times in our little lifetime. Someone would always get into big danger that would scare not only the spouse, it would scare every child in our community. Everyone mattered. That was Gunuk that wherever it was, whether it was Little Harbor, whether it was at Pierce Point, at the river.
Yeah, I think you forgot to mention in that story that when your dad was at the old Hudson Bay House. That's where he was when this happened.
Yeah.
You forgot to say that your dad heard pots and pans making noises.
Well, you have to leave some for the reader.
Whoops, I just spoiled it. I will say no more. Get the book to find out. Okay, yeah, so that's the story that inspired Mary Okina's work in this center piece here. That's featured in the back cover of the book. So it's a little teaser for you. And I guess I'll just switch the conversation a little bit because I think people want to hear about the process, like how this book came together. So Tamara, did you want to say a little bit about what happened behind the scenes, behind the cover?
Yeah, this is the first time ICS has published, an elder's memoir. We published Dissaxed magazine, and for a long time, for most of its life, it's been a quarterly magazine. It's always been, written or semi-written and then edited by the editor. But Jason has been with us. He's going on 5 years in August. And it was always a goal of his when he started with us to transform the magazine into something that has more of an Inuvialuit voice. So the magazine is now biannual. It's double issues biannually, so twice a year. Cut way down on print costs. But it also allows for that money to go direct to Inuvialuit. So Inuvialuit write and they photograph and they illustrate and they now help design the magazine fully. Jason doesn't write at all. So it's been a really transformative process. And then in that time, we've also had a lot of elders approach us and say, we want to write a book, or we have so much stories, or and one of them being Rose, who, and honestly, we didn't sit down and ask Rose to write a book. Rose already had a manuscript going. So this was a document she had already been working on for years and years and had trouble getting published or even getting people to read it and say, can this be published? And she can talk a little bit more about those challenges, but, she talked with us about that process and that being so discouraging. But then as an elder, how do you advocate for yourself? Rose is very good at that, as you could see. That's made it easier, I think, but also just having a team, with her to advocate for her too, where she can't. And part of, our mandate is to preserve and promote Inuvialuit language and history, through all forms of media, known and unknown. We have our chairperson, Debbie Ratty, here in front of us. She's here representing our board. Debbie's been with the board for years as well. It's a really good team, and we couldn't have done this project without the team that we have now. So for this project, everything kind of lined up when and how it was supposed to. And we always talk about these signs and these messages that we keep getting throughout the process, that what we're doing is a good thing, and we're doing it the right way. We applied for a $100,000 short-term project grant from Canada Council. We got the news a month earlier than we were supposed to that grant was successful. So we got the email and we were like, wow, now we have to go tell Rose. Jason went over to tell Rose, and sadly that day was the day that her beloved late husband Tom actually passed that afternoon. And Rose said something that has stuck with me all year, is just, there's Tom again, doing it again, helping her and supporting her in that way. So that we had no explanation for how or why we got that email when we did. We weren't supposed to find out for over a month later. And after that, everybody took time to have quiet time afterwards and honor honor the time Rose needed. And then right away she said, okay, never mind these weekly sessions, let's do it twice a week. So he was in the office twice a week. And again, that summer we had just finished renos in the office. We had new wheelchair ramps installed, a new wheelchair lift. So that all happened at the same time. And it was just like, okay, this project is supposed to happen. Here's the proof. Here's the message, right? And Jason said this earlier today, and it's something that he said before, but this work is really heart work. It's not, we're not out here to make a buck or anything. And we're here to be of service. And so in that way, it was kind of a good way that we chose to go about it was with a grant. Because that money has gone to all of these sessions meeting with Rose. She's been able to get paid for that time. So how do you compensate somebody for hours out of their week, and they're not even that, but preparing for a session for her is a lot too, right? Getting ready for the day and getting your mind in that space to get to work. It's really demanding mentally, emotionally, physically. And, as a team, we've had our own losses all year and a half. We've had to grieve different things together. But it's been a big support, I think, to all of us, this project, because we get to look forward to when we get to spend time together. And that itself has been our own support system through it. So what we did was the manuscript that Rose had, Jason did a heck of a lot of work, combing through these documents with Rose, and even going through old photographs, selecting what photos she wants to have in there, where those need to go. Excuse me. Building maps from scratch. So we actually got some support from the Aurora Research Institute, and they were able to build maps for us based on her memories. So there's maps in her book that are original maps, and they share original information on the areas where she grew up and place names that she remembers, or place names that, they're not like official place names, but they're what people called them, so it's in that way the book has become, projects like this take these memories and this knowledge, this traditional knowledge, this oral history, from being something that, academics might shake their head at, or, think, oh, it's not good enough because it's not in a scientific paper. It takes all of that knowledge, and if we publish it, they can't say nothing now. It truly exists. It's documented, as they would call it, right? So the process of documenting all of this knowledge, we wanted to do it however Rose wanted to do it. So every step of the way, every decision about this book, Rose has had a hand in, even right down to the font. We didn't take these ideas and make it into a book and say, how's this? She was there every step of the way. And that's different. That's different from how a typical book is published. In that way, we did it organically, and, we did it in like a family way, how it's supposed to be done, I guess, together and at Rose's lead. So that's how it came to be. Yeah, and so it'll go to print in the next couple of weeks, actually. And we should have books in early August, in physical books. And we're going to have a larger launch. More family will come. We'll have food. It's got a whole list of food she wants, so we'll have all the food. And some of the food is actually in her book. She talks about it. Another kind of aspect to the project was our producers, we decided we should, how do we want to show people, when they're reading, especially for young people, because the biggest, Rose wants this to be used in the schools, and that's always been her biggest goal, is to have it in the schools and have students using it. Of all ages. So we thought about little kids, we thought about high school kids. So another part of the project was, okay, well, we need some kind of review, an educational review from someone with an educational mind to say, you know, these areas of the book can be used in schools this way, or maybe we can make kids' books this way. So Rose's friend Liz Fowler from Yellowknife came onto the project. She received the manuscript and the draft, and she provided us 30 pages, I think, almost 40,
Yeah.
of just a review of all the different ways you could use this book as an educational resource in the classroom, from like high school essay topics to activities with little kids in class, you know. So we want that to be available with the book soon too, because one of our partners is BDEC, and so they've committed to buying some books, making sure all the schools in our region have them, and they can have some of these teachers will actually have a resource that they can use. And Liz is Inuk, and she's a longtime educator and a friend of Rose's as well. So again, this is someone Rose chose to be on the team. We didn't, you know, go out and hire whoever we wanted. She was very much our project lead and did what we were told. And then the other component too, there's a couple things in there. You know, one is a story, one is a song. You know, that's kind of, the song is really beautiful, and it's a game song. You can play with your hands. So we got some kids in the studio, and Rose taught them how to play this game, and we filmed it. So that'll be available too once the book launches. You can read about, you know, this game they used to play as kids. Then you can learn how to play it at home with your kids or in the class. It's so fun. They had a lot of fun, and it's just so beautiful that, like, we wanted to be able to have the book be alive in that way. Like, it's, you know, these things, these memories, they have this second life, and they could be used today. And a big part of it is just that value, that you know, traditional practice of being stuck inside at home and making up games together and telling stories together. That's like the spirit of that book. And of course, lots of stories about her life and memories growing up, going to school. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're just about to finish the book. Now you could take it home and treasure it. Most of all, we treasure what's in the book. When I used to be fluent in Wellington, I'd speak to Uma and his wife, and one of them said, "Kaleo kaktungayak itnuk." Him or his wife said, "Boy, this little person sure could talk in Wellington." But that's part of my story. I hope you all attempt to write something, whether it's about your siblings, whether it's about your auntie, how she was, and just enjoy writing something. Just enjoy it. Your grandchildren will enjoy that, will enjoy talking with you. I was thinking, anyway, I hope you all, I've got good news for you. All the ISR individuals in the region will receive my book, courtesy of IRC. And if they don't, they are now.
Legally, I have to clarify. Thank you. I wish. No, every Inuvialuit household gets a copy. So that's how we usually distribute the magazine. So every Inuvialuit household in the ISR will be getting the books from their CCs, respectively, in the 6 communities. Except in Nuvik, we'll be distributing it here because we're here. But in every other ISR community, they'll get them from the CC. So one copy for each registered Inuvialuit household. And that also includes Inuvialuit households that are outside of the region. We'll be mailing it to them. And then like our partners like the Cultural Center will be purchasing copies. BDEC will be purchasing copies. And then of course, non-Inuvialuit beneficiaries, there will be pre-ordering and ordering coming out for a fee, of course. And so it's not free to non-Inuvialuit. But all of this information we'll be putting out in the coming weeks. We'll put up like a little poster with a QR code. We'll have a little sign-up form for updates. But if you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, you'll see. And if you don't have social media, we'll have a poster up with all the form that you can sign up to get updates. I think is that everything I needed to legally say? Okay. And if you have any additional questions, like we're here, we'll put our emails out. You can ask anytime. But so I think we should move into the Q&A portion, the question and answer. You want to answer some questions, Rose?
Yes.
Okay.
Please ask some questions.
I would like to ask Lillian if she has a question for her longtime friend and collaborator, since you guys worked together for so long, so many years.
I don't know if she'll have the answer. No. She'll have all the answer. I worked with her early years of 1980 some? Huh?
What kind of what?
When we were working together.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 1980s, somewhere around 1980s.
Yes.
Anyways,
So.
we would think of something, and that's why writing a book wasn't so hard for her. Because I knew she was going to do something like this in my mind, I thought that because when we worked together, we thought of something. We thought of what the students could use. She just put it down, write it out, make little pictures by herself. At that time, we didn't get all what the student, me and the teachers are using today. They have a lot of things too. But when we were making things for the students, we didn't have anybody to paint them or make them beautiful the way they do them today. With the machine, as we had to do them by hand. But she was so everything. She did a lot of things that I couldn't imagine myself doing. But I just wanted to ask Rosie how many hours per day she had to put in. How many hours a day you had to start your book?
Which one?
When you first started, was it hard? I'd like to know. Or these students would like to know too. Was it hard to start a book like that?
Yeah, it was difficult because you didn't have any backup. You didn't have any stories that belonged to the people coming out from the people.
Mm-hmm.
That was hard. We're trying to imagine what is it that they're making. What is it we shouldn't be making that they'll be presenting it in schools? So now that I have my book out, that's part of the reason that Inuvialuit should be taught more in the school, should be taught all the time. Anything else? Ida? Bunny? You all learned that much today. Congratulations. You have very good memories. Thank you for being patient with us and letting me speak out what I think were some of the things that happened to me in my young life. I met old people, and it makes me proud that I did already. And Umar and his wife, they're old people. I met them and I was yakking to them like they said, boy, this little person could talk. But I was not ashamed to talk to them. But you know what? 3 years later, it was a different story. I came home and I didn't know Russian from Inuvialuktun, honestly. And I wrote about how it felt, um, and if you write your story, make sure you tell. Maybe we'll be able to reverse it somehow, someday. You'll be able to talk in Wellington. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions from the audience? From anyone? No one? Well, oh, you got a question? Absolutely.
Oh, I'll just.
Okay, yeah.
What do you hope people leave reading your book with?
Might have to come closer so she can hear you better.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I heard you.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone will have something that they can get out of the book. It's so universal in children. It's so universal in parents and grandparents. I'm sure they will all have something to take home with. At the end of their storybook, you'll know which invalid you're dealing with, and you'll know some of our dialect because I've written some of the words. I think you'll take home a whole lot more. If you don't, you tell your friend, what's this word? Yes.
You have a very unique way of storytelling. Did you pick that up from someone, or was that your own natural talent?
Gunuk Sayuka?
You have a very unique way of storytelling.
Oh.
Is that your own natural, or did you pick it up from someone?
Natural.
Oh. My mother was the storyteller.
Oh.
My mother did the storytelling with strings, which she told stories with. She uses rocks to, what you call it, juggle, and tell the stories at the same time. My mother did all those things that were, that we told our children our stories about Santa Claus. Our mother was just automatically the person that made the songs and made the stories and made you laugh. And thank you for asking, Scott. Your mother was the storyteller. It's just like she had a book. It wasn't a book, it was a string. She hung up a string, took it down, and told you a story with the string. went out and juggled with the rocks, and they tell a story about about Inuit. You know, you often think the Inuit don't have any a big library. God, all their libraries in their heads. And there, we must be so proud of him, because this lady has thousands of stories in her head. And it's not from books. It's something that she grew up with. It's something she heard all the time. Huh?
It's like you.
And she said, you too.
You had a question?
Yes, I do have a question. I was just wondering if how hard was it to separate the Naluit, non-native, and Inuvialuit to tell a story? Like, you know, your mind is straight Inuvialuit Inuvialuit way of life. And how was it? Was it hard to separate these two, or just? Okay, that's good enough.
I guess long ago we had a life that we made for ourselves, whether it's interaction with animals. We told stories about our interaction with animals, and the string games, all the string games that we know. Like there's one, Quacksak, non-mounted in Kaikit, Duck It's an old woman saying, a young person going to an old woman and saying, old woman, can I use your Shinatan pack sack? And that person said, duck pika. Her pack sack was hanging up. There's so many interesting stories like that. The only thing that's difficult to see is if your imagination doesn't work with a string game, it's hard to see the string game. But when you grew up with it, your imagination just runs through the string game that you just learn. And you go tell everyone, Banek, I learned how to make a nut mound. You go to her and tell her you learned it. See how happy she is?
Because I never learned that much.
So, Rose, you actually have a question from online from Maggie Crump. She wanted to ask you, can you share the story of what inspired you to begin writing?
What?
Can you share the story of what inspired you to begin writing?
That's from Maggie.
Maggie.
I guess as a trained teacher, I tried to make something out of what I learned as a child. And I thought I was so ashamed of it, I didn't want to do it because it was so different from the way that you were trained as a teacher. You know, you teach your ABCs and all the things in English. It had no room in it for in Wellington. But as I got older, I found out the value of being in Invalid, doing Invalid things, and seeing the children and their happy faces when they learned Invalid names. That's, you're nobody till you have an Invalid name. Yeah. Go home and practice it. Not bunny of look.
I will add in the book, in the glossary, you have more than 100 Inuvialuit names and the individuals. So when we put them all together, it was like over 100. So you talk about over 100 people, different people in your book. So that's pretty cool. And the last question online is from Rosalind, Maggie's sister. She wanted to ask, who did you have in mind as an audience when you wrote your book?
I think it was all those individuals that seem lost in Inuvalik, whether they're Inuvalik or not. They're not to be ashamed of who they are because they cannot speak Inuvalik. Mm-hmm. They cannot be ashamed of who they are because you don't act like Inuvialuit. But you know what? The older you get, the more it comes to you. And you don't push it aside. No, you embrace it and you say, I'm an Inuvialuit. And where do I start? You start being proud of it, being an Inuvialuit first. And then you look at your mom and you say, I love you, Mom. Because your moms all carry something that is very, very, very important to us. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's where we have to find our inner value. That's where we keep giving it to someone else to look for. Anything else?
Oh, we don't let
I
me
think
tell
those are
stories.
your last questions online, but someone left a comment she wanted you to know. Jeannie Rose Bennett, I believe in Red Deer, Alberta. She said, when Rose first mentioned that she was writing a book, the anticipation for me began. She is a great storyteller. I've had the privilege of being with her to hear some of them. To be soon holding the book and reading it is just amazing to me. I'm so very proud of you, Rose. Many years of your dedication will come to fruition. So that's from Jeannie.
Thank you.
Yeah. And she actually sent a video too, but I'll show it to you later. Because we were going to bring a screen, we were going to have this huge setup. It didn't happen. Yeah. Question?
I'm looking forward to your book. You make it sound so interesting. But I was asking, I wanted to know what you have in the words and in Valentine up there between Rose and Kirby. Because when I bring that book home, when I got it home, I'm going to explain it to my family what that means. Is that your Inuvialuktun word, your name? Or?
On the top?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are my names, Inuvialuktun names. Karuk, I was named after my dad's stepmom. She was old man Bennett's wife. Her name was Karuk. 2 o'clock I was named after Lou, what's her name? Dillon's in Tux.
Alice or Eddie Dillon's?
Yeah, Eddie's grandfather was Joe Clark.
Oh.
Either that or his wife. It's his wife. His dad, her dad was Joe Clark. And I missed one somewhere.
The first one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then Nicolak means, you know, that goose.
Yeah.
That's after.
Is that Yellow Lake?
Yeah.
Yellow
Yeah.
Lake. Oh. Because they sound like that.
Yep.
Bernhard. What's his name?
Albert.
Apa nga.
Yeah.
Yeah, his Albert Bernhard's dad. His name was. His wife's name was Nicolak. Yeah. That is. That's all my Nivalik name. Yeah. And when we were younger, we were raised to believe in when you could receive somebody's name, you even if they were cranky or something, you always swear to yourself, I will never be cranky, so people don't talk about me like that. So I try to be as cheerful as yeah. And that's how you honor the name of the individual.
Thank you.
My name's Tommy. I'm an artist. What you're doing is very inspiring to me, and as an artist, I want to give this little present to you as an inspiration for what you're doing. And for memories of your ancestors.
Nice.
That's us.
A little portrait.
Oh,
Beautiful.
Just drew that. Now.
holy smoke. Thanks.
Oh, nice.
Which one is me? Tulog sa'yo ka.
Wow.
Yeah.
Panaimi. Oh. Panaimi. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any more questions?
Retired. Yeah, Ravid.
Okay, it looks like we have no more questions. So to wrap everything up, thank you everyone for coming. Oh yeah, sorry, I don't know, everyone's like crouching down here this whole time. We actually have hoodies and t-shirts with Pinixika on it, and we'll be here. You can grab them. I think it's $50 for hoodie and 30 for t-shirt. And then we have stickers. If you're still here, please grab a sticker for free. We have hoodies, t-shirts, and I think that's all. Yeah, and then books later. They're coming, I promise.
You want a cup? Make you a cup. We can make you a cup.
And then we have I think we have until at least 5, so we'll just leave that time for visiting. Like anyone can just come up and mingle and visit, and we'll have all the hoodies and t-shirts out in just a second.
Thank you.
You want to say anything else, or you're done?
You want to come and talk to me and say hi? Go ahead.